Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching the world. My name is Sean Driver, and this is the Red Horde. Immediately following Wrexham's promotion from the National League to League Two, Twitter, Facebook groups that focused on League Two were rife with an abundance of comments talking about what Wrexham could expect going forward. There was lots of love there. There was also lots of hate. Often repeated through those posts, those tweets, was the wish, the prognostication that Wrexham was destined to be immediately relegated. Take a look. So, you think? Well, let's get into it. We're going to take a journey back now to the fall of 2002, entering into the 2002-2003 season. That was the first season where two teams were promoted from the National League, from the fifth tier into the fourth tier, the EFL. So the purpose of this video is to look at the question, how have teams that have been promoted from the National League performed in League Two? There is a 20-year history since two teams have been promoted out of Tier 5. That's 40 promotions from the National League. 38 different teams, because Grimsby Town and Barnet were both promoted from the National League, subsequently relegated, and then promoted again. So what does that add to say? Well, in summary, and we'll go over it, it's just not likely. It hasn't happened in the 20 years under the current format. No team, not one, has ever been promoted from the National League and in the following year subsequently sent down. Just to clarify, I'm going to try to call it the fifth tier and the fourth tier. There were two name changes to both the National League, which was formerly the Conference, and League Two was at one time the third division, despite it being the fourth tier. It gets a little convoluted, but let's just keep it clear. I'll try and do my best. I'm going to call it the National League, even if it was the Conference. I'm going to try and call it League Two, even if it was at one point the third division. That 20 seasons of data shows some pretty clear evidence that when you're promoted from the National League, there's usually 5 typical outcomes, and I've tried to classify them. Smashed it, immediate success, long-term toils, flash in the pan, and a total collapse. And we'll go through the teams that belong in those categories. It is hard to classify. There's teams that don't fit the mold. An example is Oxford United. It took them 6 seasons to earn promotion after being promoted from the 5th tier in 2010-2011, and then through to League One. They were through to League One, finishing second in League Two during the 2015-2016 season. They spent 7 years in League One. So can you call that an immediate success? Certainly not a bust. Do we call it sustainable growth? There's other teams, some out there. Hereford United, they had immediate success, but then the club was relegated and subsequently folded. So there's more details as we go through it, but forgive me for perhaps putting people into a class that they may not fit in. Starting with, smashed it. Only one team, probably obvious to everybody who follows football who that is, Luton Town. 4 promotions over the period of 9 years. 2013-2014 National League champions, so that moves them up into League Two, where they were there for 4 years. 2017-2018 promotion from League Two up into League One. Then the following year, immediate promotion, 2018-2019, to move them from League One up into the Championship, and then just last year, Luton Town in the playoffs, able to pull off the victory and advance into the Premier League. That is the path. 9 seasons, no one even comes close to doing that coming out of the National League. Have to tip your cap to them, give them all the credit. They've done that, and hopefully Wrexham is able to replicate, do something similar. It's impressive. It's just impressive. As to the second category, immediate success. So 7 teams, that's 17.5%, have earned back-to-back promotions to League Two and League One. Go through the list. That's the Doncaster Rovers, Carlisle United, Exeter City, Stevenage Borough, Crawley Town, Bristol Rovers, and the Tranmere Rovers. So you have those 7 teams that back-to-back, so it's certainly possible. There's a number of teams that have done it. You have 14 teams that have earned promotion to League One within their first 4 seasons in League Two. So that's taking the 7 teams that we just went over, and then an additional list of Yeovil Town, Hereford United, Dagenham and Redbridge, Fleetwood Town, Lincoln City, Leyton Orient, and Luton Town. And obviously success doesn't just rest with one promotion. The hope is to climb the ladder, climb the tiers to get to the top, as Luton Town has done. There are 4 teams that have made it to the championship. Those are all teams that we've just gone over. That's 10% that have made the promotion from League 2 to League 1, and then the promotion from League 1 to the championship. That's Yeovil Town, the Doncaster Rovers, Burton Albion, and of course, Luton Town. And that leaves us with the next category, long-term toils. A number of teams in this category, starting off with Accrington Stanley, 12 seasons in League 2. They were promoted 2005-2006 out of the National League. They were champion in 2017-18, and they've been in League 1 then for 5 seasons total. Last season, though, they've been relegated again, having finished 23rd in the table in League 1, bringing them back into League 2. So that's 17 total seasons since their promotion, and largely Accrington Stanley spinning their wheels. The next team, Shrewsbury Town, has had a more yo-yo type trip through the relegation promotion world. 8 seasons in League 2 after earning their promotion out of the National League in 2003-2004. They were subsequently promoted again in 2011-2012, finishing second, where they spent 2 seasons up in League 1, and then were relegated back to League 2 in 2013 and 14. And then immediately the year following, back up into League 1, where they've been throughout. So that's 8 seasons in League 1, only 2 seasons above 15th in the table. They did have one chance to move to the championship with a playoff loss to Rotherham, which concluded the 2017-2018 season. But really, it's been 19 years since they've been promoted from the National League. They've had a long run in League 2. They've had some limited success in League 1. Credit that they're there, but still qualify in my books as being a long-term toil. Next on the list, Morecambe, and I'm going to be maybe pronouncing that wrong, and don't cut off my head for it. Still working on some of the pronunciation. 16 seasons since their promotion, 14 of them, 14 seasons toiling in League 2. They did get a taste in League 1 and then were bounced right back. They earned that promotion through a playoff win in 2020-21 after a 78-point season. 2 years ago, finishing just out of relegation at 19th, and then they were relegated this year back into League 2, and so they'll be joining Wrexham. That's an extended period with just a quick little blip in the league above the 3rd tier in League 1. Exeter City then, they did fit into the immediate success category, if you'll recall. They were promoted their first year in League 2 back in 2008-2009, but then subsequently relegated in 2011-2012 after just 3 seasons there. Exeter City then spent a decade toiling in League 2 until earning promotion with a 2nd place finish in 2021-22 to League 1. They're still there. They remain there after a 14th place finish on the table last season. AFC Wimbledon. And I got a bit of a soft spot for AFC Wimbledon, and I think most people do. Owned by the Dons Trust, a non-profit. Wrexham fans familiar with what that is all about. The team was created in 2002 to fill the gap after Wimbledon FC, the former club, was relocated to Milton Keynes and became the MK Dons. AFC Wimbledon and MK Dons are both in League 2 next season. Wimbledon, as a consequence of finishing 21st in League 2, they just avoided relegation outside of the EFL, and the MK Dons are going to be joining League 2 after being relegated from League 1 after a 21st place finish last year. Has to be some frustration there, I imagine, for MK Dons fans. They were outside of relegation the day of the last games of the season, and then finished with a tie against Burton, and that allowed Cambridge to jump over top of them in the standings with a win on the final day over Forest Green. So in any event, AFC Wimbledon promoted to League 2 in 2010-2011 after a playoff win and a 2nd place finish on the table. They've had 5 seasons in League 2 up until 2015-2016, and then the 7th place team got them into just barely the playoffs, but they managed to win. The scrappy team basically clawed for 6 seasons near the bottom of League 1, best finish being a 15th place finish in the table before they were relegated 2021-2022. And then last season's poor finish was bad enough, but just good enough to avoid a relegation out of the EFL. Cambridge United, they were promoted in 2013, 2014. They toiled in League Two for 7 seasons, only once finishing above the top 10 until they earned their promotion in 2021 up into League One by finishing second. They've been successful at holding on for relegation, not really with much success in League One other than avoiding relegation, finishing 14th and 20th in the last 2 seasons. Cheltenham Town, similar path to Cambridge United that we just went over, relatively limited sample size of 7 seasons. Following their promotion from the 5th tier in 2015-2016, they've had 5 seasons before they earned promotion, and then since then have had 2 consecutive seasons in League One. Grimsby Town, they have the rare distinction in the 20 years since the 2-team promotion system from the 5th tier up into the EFL. There have been only 2 teams that have been relegated that have earned their promotion back into the EFL. That's Barnet and Grimsby Town. In Grimsby's Town scenario, it's the only club to earn a place back in the EFL in the very first year since they were promoted back into the National League. So they went down, came immediately back up. They were originally promoted into League Two in 2015-2016 with a playoff win. 5 seasons where they never finished higher than 14th, and then they were relegated in 2020-2021 by finishing in last place. They bounced back immediately. Following year, 2021-2022, they took out Notts County and, we all know, Wrexham before winning the final and earning that promotion. So a unique characteristic to Grimsby Town. I'm sure they'll be rubbing it in. We often get reminded, social media and otherwise, as to their win over Wrexham last season. It'll be fun to play them again. We'll see how it goes this year. Salford City, promoted in 2018-2019, a new addition to League Two. They did qualify for the league playoffs last season. They do have a history of toiling in the lower leagues as an amateur club until some Man U players got into the club in 2014. But they're still there toiling, and their attendance numbers is the only club lower than them last season, Harrogate Town. For whatever reason, they just can't get butts into their seats. Barrow, 2019-2020 promotion, again, another limited sample size. It's been 3 seasons, but so far classified into that long-term toil. But if they're able to pull something off next season, I guess that upgrades them into an immediate success. Harrogate Town, similar to Barrow, limited sample size, but even further away from being competitive last season, their best season so far has been a 17th place in League Two. Mansfield Town has to qualify as the definition of toiling, National League champions in 2012-2013. They've had 2 chances at promotion with the playoffs, 2017-2018. They lost to Newport County in the semis. 2021-2022, they lost in the final. But they are now entering their 11th consecutive season in League Two. A collection of struggle, toil. They're stuck. Wouldn't classify them as a favorite to go forward, but they're expected to be in the top third. We'll see how Mansfield Town does next season. Newport County, repeat the same thing as above, promoted with Mansfield Town. Promoted like Mansfield Town in 2012-2013. The outcome nearly identical. 2 playoff attempts for qualification, 2018-2019. They lost the final in the year before Mansfield Town did in 2020-2021. But they've been there for the same number of seasons, 11 seasons as Mansfield. It's been a struggle for Newport County. Sutton United, again, another limited run, just 2 seasons of since their promotion as the champion of the National League in 2020-2021. They're still there. We'll see how the next 2 seasons go for them and whether they're able to find some increased success in League Two. And then finally, the last one on the list for the long-term toils, Forest Green Rovers. They did earn promotion their 5th year in League Two after their debut in 2016-2017, but they were relegated back to League One this year, and so that'll be 6 of 7 years toiling in League Two. And that takes us to the next category, those that were a flash in the pan. Maybe some brief success, but then down back into the National League and struggling. You've got Dagenham Redbridge, has to fit into that category. They are on that list of teams who had an immediate success. It was a brief moment of success. They were promoted in their third year in the League Two in 2009, 2010. Perhaps a surprise promotion. They finished 7th in the table that in League Two is good enough to earn you a promotion spot, and they were capable of taking that through to success and gaining promotion into League One, but immediately relegated the following season. 5 seasons then back in League Two, then relegated again into the National League, where they've been for 7 seasons back in the National League. Then you've got Aldershot Town, the 2007-2008 champions. They advanced into the League Two, into the EFL with a 101-point season, which is rather impressive. Spent a total of 5 seasons in League Two before being relegated in 2012, 2013, and then since then they've been stuck, suffering through the tribulations and the trials of being in the National League, where they've been there for a decade. And then last season in 18th place position. So Aldershot Town, some success, but flash in the pan. They're now back going through the strife that Wrexham fans are so familiar with. Torquay United, again, a familiar name for those that are new to the club, being in the National League, 2008, 2009, 5th tier champions. They had a total of 5 seasons, again, similar to Aldershot Town, in League Two before they were relegated themselves in 2013, 2014. 9 seasons they have spent then outside of the EFL in the 5th tier or lower, with 2018-2019 in the National League South. And then again, having been relegated last season back to the 6th tier, things are not going as well as Torquay would prefer it to go. They're definitely suffering now all the way down to the 6th tier. Hartlepool United, 2020-2021 team, 4th place on the table in the National League, and then the playoff champion. They spent just 2 seasons in the EFL. They're now relegated back into the National League last season, so they'll be in the 5th tier again. So that's a flash in the pan, and we'll see if they're able to right the ship. York City, what do we say here? 4th place finish in 2011-2012. That they were able to gain promotion out of the National League and into the EFL. Through the playoffs. They stayed there for 4 seasons and then went through back-to-back relegations, 2015, 2016, and 2016, 2017. So the consequence of that, out of League Two and into the National League, and then during that season, out of the National League and into the National League North, where they were in the 6th tier for a total of 5 seasons. They are now back in the National League, but that brief moment of success to get into the EFL was certainly short-lived. And they've been toiling as a consequence throughout. Yeovil, they're on the list of immediate success. They have quite the run in 2 completely separate decades that are absolutely fascinating. They've been more up and more down than anybody else on the list. They reached the championship after promotion in 2012, 2013, and then just to be relegated back to League One the year after, 2013, 2014, and then relegated again to League Two in 2014, 2015. They've suffered 2 more subsequent relegations, and they're out of the EFL, and last year to enter the 6th. So I don't know what do you call Yeovil, having reached the championship and then subsequently fallen all the way down to the 6th tier. But if there was a separate category, yeah, the mighty has fallen, I guess. That's certainly the situation for Yeovil. The last category that we have, crash and burn, is a little bit unique, because these are clubs that no longer exist, or if they do exist, it's because of what they call a Phoenix club. That is a club that was closed because of administration or other reasons, and then they've restarted and started the climb back up through the tier system. So I did mention Hereford United at the start of the video. That's a town near the Welsh border, near the city of Birmingham. They were the playoff winner in 2005, 2006, promotion in their 2nd season in the 4th tier, and then immediately relegated from League One. And it all sort of went downhill from there. 3 seasons near the bottom of League Two after that, and then the last of those 3 seasons, they were relegated to the National Leagues, where they spent 2 years. The conclusion of the 2013-2014 season, they were expelled out of the National League due to financial irregularities, and that led to a wind-up. It led to a suspension from all FA Cup activity, and then because they didn't respond to requests. and of the regulatory commission. So they were officially wound up in December 2014, and then there's been that new Phoenix club that I mentioned. Hereford FC is now the name of the club, and they're in the National League North, being the 6th tier. So call that a crash and burn. They did have some success, but certainly some struggles after that. Chester City, well, this one might be a little bit more enjoyable to talk about. Wrexham fans, even the new ones, know that we've got not a lot of love for Chester City in any way. No desire to give them too much airtime, so just go through it. They've been a calamity in the National League 2009-2010, resulting from the club being in administration due to £7 million debt. There was some refusal to play. There were player strikes, failed attendance. They were expelled in February 2010. Their record expunged and wound up in March. There is a Phoenix club. They're not rising from the ashes. Let's just put it there. Don't know what the noun is, though. What is the noun for something that oozes from a pile of... And that brings us to Macclesfield Town. So champions in 2017, 2018, relegated in 2019, 2020, and then back into the National League after 2 seasons. The team was then sold to a new owner. They created a Phoenix club following a petition to wind up the club in 2020. And now Macclesfield FC just got their promotion into the 7th tier. So they're starting their climb back up. All told, from the start of the video, you saw the comments. I'll bring them up here again. The data is pretty clear. Immediate relegation, going up and going back down, that's something you see in the Premier League, and that's more probable from the Championship down to League One. But out of League Two, that's not the reality. We know that Wrexham are one of the favorites as far as betting odds are going for promotion, back-to-back promotion. We think that's probably more likely, despite the stats demonstrating that it's only a 10% chance, given the 20 seasons of history that we have. But that's the goal. We've got the club to do it. We'll see what ends up happening over the season. Excited to see how it plays out. There's certainly rivalry that are going to be there. I'm looking forward to Grimsby Town. I'm looking forward to the games against Attendance FC just because of the comments from most of the fans in Bradford. I'll suggest that a lot of the hatred towards Wrexham is the frustration that Bradford has the largest attendance. They've got a great turnover. They struggle in the league, and the only qualification, the only suggestion that they can provide is that League Two is a very tough league, and that's why we don't advance. I'd suggest maybe a little internalization might be necessary, and suggesting how does the club struggle when you've got all the advantages before you. I can see that happening over a season or two, but it seems to be a dedicated and continuing pursuit of mediocrity in League Two for Bradford City, and we'll throw that gauntlet out there and see how that goes over. In any event, this is the Red Horde. I'm going to put through a couple more videos like this. I want to do one with promotion relegation, just generally for people who don't understand it. As I said, I do want to go over the regulations with respect to, I'll call it financial fair play, to talk about the club and how that pans out for us in the upcoming season and beyond. And so if you enjoyed this, leave your comments below, hit the subscribe button if this was entertaining for you, and we'll be back with more.